I don't want to. I mean, we could. I don't want to just skip in. I don't want to be. I like. What am I supposed to? What are you supposed? What am I supposed to? How are you?
I'm good.
Okay. And then you ask, how am I?
How are you?
Good. 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 Very good. Anything new?
Uh, Not really. You?
Um, Not really. Perfect.
Cool.
I'm glad we did that. All right.
All right. All right.
You ready
Set
to
us
get into
up.
it?
Tell us about the show.
Here we go. I'm just gonna start it. Ready?
Okay.
Here we go.
Go.
Welcome to Down Your Throat. I'm Cammy, and this is the show where I force people to be. I make people vegan. With me today, Jeremy.
Hey, what's up, Cammy?
How are you? Not much. What about you?
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I just turned 41. I don't know. Like, life's fine. I don't know. Like, are we talking about food here?
Yeah, we are going. We are. I don't even
Okay.
remember what I asked you. So let's get into it. How do you kill an animal humanely?
I mean, where do we draw the line on what's an animal? Like,
Okay. Okay.
is an insect an animal?
Well, I think it is. Isn't it an insect an animal? Let's Google it. I'll Google it.
Yeah, maybe Google
Define
it. Like,
animal. A living organism that feeds on organic matter, typically having specialized sense organs and nervous system and able to respond rapidly to stimuli. I would say an insect is an animal.
insects is an animal, yeah. I guess, yeah, no, it's a good question. It's a good question to start with because, like, I don't think I could kill a cow humanely because humane that's a human reference, right? So
Okay.
you can't be humane with a cow at all.
Okay,
But
yeah,
even
Chris
it's
was
even
saying
harder.
something like this too. It's kind of like the
Yeah.
etymology of the word humane has to do with humans. So let's just say let's use a different word then.
Okay.
Uh, how do you kill an animal in a way that is not cruel?
I mean, I think it's hard. I mean, but it does depend. Like a cockroach, sometimes I'm like, oh, then you kill the cockroach and you feel a little bad because the cockroach is a life, but you feel worse. The largest animal I've ever killed with my bare hands is like a fish, and I don't like killing fish.
Why is
And as
that?
soon because the fish is alive
Hmm.
and flopping around, and then you have to bang it on the head like with a
Right.
rock or a hammer or something, and then it
Yeah.
stops moving, and you're like, that was just fucking terrible. Like,
Yeah.
why would? And I only did it because like the fish had swallowed my hook. I wasn't even planning on eating it. And then I was like, I had to fucking kill this fish. I named it Philly the fish. And it was too small to even properly eat. The whole thing was just like it was like a brutal massacre.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't like killing things, but I feel a little bit less bad about like killing, say, a mosquito. But the mosquito is by definition an animal too, right?
Sure. Yeah, and I guess one thing about the mosquito is that mosquitoes kind of attack you, and part of it is kind of a sense of self-defense, right?
Right. Like the cow's not attacking me.
Right. So I guess the question becomes like, it sounds like from what you're saying, you have a kind of a respect for other animals, will to live, their desire to stay alive, and so you didn't like killing this fish, and so do you? If you're so uncomfortable killing that fish, are you also uncomfortable, paying other people to do more or less the same job, or is it more complicated than that?
I mean, I sort of just jumped straight to the point here. I am already persuaded by all arguments of veganism. So it's actually not. There's no theoretical work that needs to be done. It's
Oh,
purely
okay.
practical work, right? Like, I can't make an argument that it's like. I mean, okay, I could make an argument that it's like if you are like really thinking about the health of an ecosystem, and you're like, the only way that this ecosystem can be healthy is by like hunting the excess deer in the ecosystem, because like the wolves have been removed from the ecosystem, and you go with your fucking
by who?
bow, by humans, obviously, right. but like I mean the best way is like to reintroduce the wolves, but like maybe that's like not the best short-term solution, or like, so you know, you can reintroduce the wolves. They did it in Yellowstone, it's been really successful, but yeah, like if in the short term, it like makes more sense to have like dudes with guns and dudettes with guns go into the forest and shoot the deer, and then eat them. And I feel like that is like sort of like you're talking about ahimsa, right? Like you're trying to reduce harm. You're never going to bring your harm down to zero, right?
Sure. Although, I mean, I more or less agree with what you're saying when you say you're never going to bring your harm down to zero. And then before that, you were talking about, you know, sometimes it can be, the situation you're describing is definitely very interesting and complicated, because you're kind of saying like, well, sometimes the best way to reduce harm is to cause sort of short-term harm for the greater good, right?
Yeah, like it's in a way better for you to like shoot the deer and take it apart and eat it, and you know, benefit from its like life force, than for the deer to like starve to death.
Yeah, or even maybe get mauled to death by a wolf. One might make the argument, but that said, I mean, there are other solutions. First of all, like there's contraception that we can use on wildlife to reduce population. I would argue that there are like benevolent, compassionate ways to deal with that particular issue that doesn't necessarily require us to hunt them down, you know, because hunting is, and I'm sure you would agree, and most people would agree, it's like it's pretty, I mean, it's pretty rough for the animal most of the time, right?
I guess it comes down to this like question of like the state of nature, right? Like in the state of nature, which is not a thing that ever existed, like, you know, in the quote unquote state of nature for a wolf, like they eat the deer, they eat the antelope, they eat whatever, like,
sure.
You can't be like, you guys should just eat like tempeh.
Yeah.
You know,
I might argue with you there, though. I don't know if it's worth it to get this far into the depths of veganism, but like, what would you say if we could come up with, you know, plant-grown meat that worked for species like wolves and lions and didn't have a negative effect on their health? Wouldn't you say that maybe that's a more ethical way to deal with those animals, is meat that doesn't come from death?
I guess it depends on like what you think about death.
Okay.
You know, like I don't personally feel good. I have not thought about that before, and I'd have to think about it more. But in initial like introduction to that idea, I don't like it because it feels like a perversion of nature with like this like human kind of like anthropomorphic, you know, hierarchy like placed on other animals.
Okay, but you understand that in the context of what we're talking about, like that has been done to such a degree already. Like we're putting animals through nightmares in the name of, you know, consuming their flesh. I think that is a way crazier concept than to say to ourselves, hey, we don't want animals to suffer, so let's do what we can to prevent that suffering, right? I mean, I see what you're saying, and I totally understand why it feels perverse, and I think, you know, even for me, I think it felt perverse at first, but I just, at a certain point, in my opinion, you have to say like, well, we're humans, and pretty much no matter what we're doing, we're interacting with nature, and like we can't, I don't know, we can't, I'm really against the idea that like, well, hey, this is nature, and so we should just follow nature. I'm really against that. I think that we should follow our own kind of internal sense of righteousness, and I think that often goes against nature. Not to go on for too long.
No, I agree with that. I also think that we as humans do have no fixed nature, or we have, let's say, less in the way of a fixed nature than I think other animals. I do think that it's very hard to try to convince your cat to not like kill mice.
Yeah, totally.
You know, because the cats have been surviving by killing mice and mouse-like creatures for, you know, many thousands, millions of years of their evolution. So I think that is, we've wandered into like a sort of obscure part of this argument, but yeah. I like that is even a thought experiment that's like people have engaged in. But like the general idea that like if we cannot murder animals for our well-being, then we shouldn't. And I think this hunting thing for me is honestly, it's like an exception that proves the rule, really. Like, again,
what do you mean by that?
To come back to the thing, like I fundamentally agree with the idea of veganism. Like, or I would have a kind of a qualified veganism where I would only eat meat that my friend had personally killed ethically, or that I had killed ethically.
Sure. Which
of course is not veganism, but it's still like, I think a much better situation than like, I'm going to go get like the Tyson chicken from, the Price Chopper.
Yeah. And I think, so one thing you said there that I think is important is you said, I would eat meat that was killed ethically. Right. And so I think, I guess I'm trying to like figure out what does that mean? Like, what would that entail, killing something ethically?
Well, there's like, I feel like
if you
there's
needed
a lot
it for
of,
survival, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question. I mean, if you absolutely needed meat for survival, that's one where like, one way. There are certain like places on planet Earth where if you're living in like, like in Beringia,
right.
The only real way to survive is either like importing food from a long way away or, like eating the occasional whale. Folks lived in harmony with whales, until the whalers came, and it was all, about killing whales for profit, which is, I think, where the difference is, in my mind, it's like, this is a question of respect for life. So if you really have respect for the animal that you're eating and killing,
yeah,
it's still not like violence-less, I suppose, but it's, it's very different. Yeah, it's very different. Yeah.
Definitely. I would definitely agree with you there. That having respect for the animal it definitely changes the dynamic. I guess for me, it's like, I think there's a point where I guess to put it simple, like, I think that if you don't need to kill the animal and you're just doing it because you want to taste it, or even if it's for like some kind of tradition or something, I think it's wrong to do, because even no matter how much you respect the animal, the animal's not going to get anything out of your respect for it when it's dead, right? So I think, I'm not sure, definitely if you need to kill it to survive, then you should have respect for it. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if having respect for it in itself makes it ethical.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tricky argument to untangle.
You think so?
And yeah, well, because it's like, who decides what's ethical, right? I mean,
well,
I guess we all decide for ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, so for me personally, I feel like, and these are kind of hypothetical situations, because when I eat meat, 99% of the time, or the meat that I've eaten in my life, 99.99% of it has been meat that's been killed in like some version of the, factory farming system, right?
Right.
Like, I remember one time that my friends were like driving down the road in upstate New York, and they like hit a deer. They didn't want to hit the deer. The deer didn't want to be hit, but that's what happened. The deer died. And they said, well, instead of just, throwing the deer carcass on the side of the road, that, they made the deer into sausage.
Right.
And it was delicious. And it felt kind of like honoring the spirit of the animal. And that's this question, is like, can you honor the spirit of the animal? They talk about that a lot in like kashrut, like the rules of whatever, Jewish rules for eating stuff. And, there's a lot of rules about how to shecht, how to kill an animal, and
sure.
And the idea being that, you don't want them to suffer too much. You don't want the milk and the meat, and you don't want the blood. And there's stuff that you're like, I don't know why this is a rule, but it's like, it's designed to somehow honor the life of that
sure, totally.
creature,
Yeah. Totally. And, in the context of like those days where it didn't really matter, if you were an animal lover or whatever, if you wanted to live to see the next day, you pretty much had to participate in this particular system. And then the other thing about that scenario, rather, that story that you told about hitting the deer and turning it into sausage. I mean, that's the thing about that, is like, you guys didn't go out of your way to kill the deer, right? So I think for me, and I guess I'm wondering if you agree with this, part of respecting an animal is this idea that, like, I will give you this idea that maybe you can eat an animal respectfully. I just don't think that you can kind of kill an animal respectfully if it's not to, like, survive, basically.
Right. And I think, again, we're talking about, like, even in this hunting, this is kind of sort of at the fringe of the argument, right? Like, what percentage of meat eaten in, let's say, the United States of America is hunted at any given day? I'm sure it's like 0.01% or something.
So you're saying, is what you're saying that, like, the hunted meat is the ethical meat? Is that the idea?
Yeah.
Well, why is that
Relatively
so? I guess
speaking.
that's what I'm challenging you on. Is like, what makes the hunted meat ethical?
I think it has to do with the life of the animal pre-death. Like, yeah, sure, getting like shot by like a bolt gun in your head in a slaughterhouse is not a fun way to go. Getting shot by, like, I don't know, a shotgun or some sort of rifle in the forest is, in a way, might even be worse, because the hunter like misses your heart, and then you're like have to like suffer for like hours or days until you die.
Totally.
So yeah, it's there. Like, neither situation is good, but
what?
I think the idea that I have held, at least until this conversation, is that, well, at least the deer gets to roam free and eat, nibble on the
and that's beautiful.
The leaves.
That's beautiful. Why do we? And so, but then we shoot it and it dies.
I mean,
why do we do that?
I haven't personally done that. I think the idea being that there are too many deer, right? And the deer are there's dying of starvation, which is even worse than getting shot. And
so let me give you that. Let me just give you this argument that, like, sometimes if there's an overpopulation thing and there's really no, if the choices are like, okay, either things are going to get out of control and the ecosystem is going to break down, or we do this thing, then I'll grant you, like, choose the option that prevents everything from blowing up. But I guess I'm asking, let's get beyond that and talk about, like, the situation we're in, right, where the stuff that we're buying, right, like, I'm assuming you don't just buy hunted deer, right? I'm assuming that's probably a rare thing, and in fact I would imagine that's like a really expensive thing to acquire if it's even widely available. Or
yeah, I've never purchased hunted, well, unless maybe I have it at a restaurant or something, but like no, I can never remember. The only time I've ever had hunted meat was when the hunter was like a friend or a friend of a friend, and we ended up with like so and so's like venison steaks or something. But again, we're talking about, again, this is like a very small percentage of, I think, the meat that's consumed. Mostly we're talking about these like pretty evil, massive corporate like meat operations.
So why is that then? Why do that? Is it just like a habit thing, or
why do what? Like why eat meat?
Yeah. Why eat
from
meat
from the evil corporation situation? Yeah, I mean, I actually recently stopped eating meat. About a month ago.
Oh wait, sorry, my internet went out. You said you stopped eating meat?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're not even eating meat right now.
I'm not eating meat right now. But I do. I mean, I am eating cheese and other stuff.
You're doing dairy stuff.
Sure. Yeah. So no, I don't know what happened. I guess I was watching some sort of internet post from my friend Astra Taylor, who's a brilliant person.
No doubt.
Just in general, like, I don't know, awesome person and intellectual and author and filmmaker. And she made this post on Facebook, Instagram, I can't remember. She was like, there's lots of things you can do to help, but the simplest thing you can do is just stop eating meat.
Sure.
And I was like, I've just no argument. Like, there's no other argument. So I just stopped eating meat at that moment. And I think I made like one exception one day, but it's like it's so easy to stop eating meat. It's a little harder for me to go full vegan.
Full vegan. Okay, so it's not that difficult for you to go to stop eating meat, but it's pretty difficult to stop eating the dairy and stuff. So do you plan on returning to meat, or you're not really sure where you're at, or?
There was one exception of the meat is when I was in Vermont. I was visiting Gideon, and like someone had hunted a bear. Okay. And we actually had bear meat.
Wow. For
dinner. Yeah. And I ate it just out of a sense of perhaps curiosity.
Okay.
And it wasn't very good. But yeah, it was really greasy. Anyway, I honestly, I think when it comes to meat, it's for me more of like you said before, like a cultural thing. Like, particularly when I'm in Mexico, it's like you want to eat tacos because tacos are cultural. You want to eat like birria and barbacoa, and like Mexico is so meat centric when it comes to the cuisine. You want to eat like mole with like pollo. You can't have like mole with, I don't know, tempeh. Like, actually, totally could, and it would be really good.
Yeah, exactly. Vegan is, yeah. You don't need to have dead animals and stuff to make it taste good.
Right, and mole is completely vegan until you put the pollo in there. So anyway, but it's just more like I don't like to be. I think it becomes this question of almost like cultural, or it's like aesthetics, or just like how you want to be perceived. I don't want to be the person that's complaining, or I don't want to be the person that's perceived as having like dietary restrictions and needy.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. So it sounds like the ethical thing, like whatever the weight of the ethics, it's not really very heavy for you. It's not like when you eat these products, you're not really, and I don't mean to sound judgmental or anything, but you're not like thinking, or you're not affected by these other issues that we're talking about that are kind of directly influenced by purchasing those things.
Like, do I feel guilty when I'm eating meat?
I guess so, yeah. I guess that's the short way of it.
I mean, I don't think that I'd necessarily feel guilty like in that moment when I'm like, getting like a pastor taco, and I know that at some point, there was like a pig that had to grow up and then be killed and cut apart in order for me to have this like taco, and I could have like, I don't know, salsa on a potato taco, and it would be really good too.
Yeah.
So there's like but when you go to the taco stand in Mexico, there's no veggie option. Like there might be, like you could maybe get like a nopales or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I guess the thing that I'm trying to bring it, or the kind of central question that I want to ask is like, I get that vegan can be, inconvenient. and it can be kind of socially awkward. So I guess for you, the thing is that like those things, the inconvenience and the social sort of pressure, they're more important than, you know, the lives of the animals, presumably. In those moments. I mean, I know it's not like you're not consciously saying, okay, this is how I'm going to prioritize things, but like that's kind of the underlying structure of the situation, right?
Yeah, there's a sense of like, I think there is a sense of like, I kind of know this isn't the right thing, but this is A, like traditional, and, you know, and B, sort of like, I don't know, it's like, can be tasty and can also just be kind of convenient.
Yeah, I get it. But so, you know, the question I'm asking is like, okay, I get that it's convenient and I get that it's tasty, but don't you feel like, you know what I'm
inconsistent
saying? Yeah.
I think the word, yeah, it's like that, and that's how I was feeling. And I think when Astro made that point online, I was like, all right, so you're totally right. I feel inconsistent with my value set, and, you know, I think inconsistency with value set is, I mean,
bad.
It's bad. It undermines your sense of
identity.
I don't know. I think identity, it undermines your sense of like the agency, that you have like a choice in the world to do anything, because you're like, no, like I believe this, but I'm going to do this other thing because it's just it's convenient, because it's like tradition. So for all those reasons, I totally agree with the veganitude. I guess my question would be on let's say I'm already a vegetarian. I have been for, you know, various points in my life, but I have been this time for about a month or two. And I'm feeling fine, you know, I've been eating, you know, I'm not suffering for lack of calories or anything, but I have not been able to go the next step to cut out, say, cheese, eggs, all the other products that are not exactly meat.
Is that why? Because it's too tasty, or what?
Honestly, I think it has just to do with like a personal cultural shift. You know?
What do you mean by that?
Well, like if I'm ever around like vegans and I eat vegan food, if I go to a vegan restaurant, I'm never like, oh damn, this would be good, but I just need some bacon on this shit. Or like I need, you know, I wish this had cheese. Like no, like good vegan food is really good, you know. And I toured around with a band that was like half vegans, and you know, we'd always just like eat Thai food or like Ethiopian food. There's like certain, you know, ways where it's just like you don't even notice you're not like eating dairy or eggs or whatever.
Sure.
And I feel like if you cook at home and you're really just good cook, then you'd never miss it. I think it's just a question of like, I've been on the road a lot the last years, and I'm eating out, and yeah, I think that's a big part of the problem, is I'm not like really in control of, I'm in control, I guess, but I'm not very well in control of like my dietary inputs.
Sure. You mean it's hard to stay vegan when all the options around you are not usually conducive to that lifestyle kind of thing?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like you can certainly go into any restaurant and like get something vegan, but sometimes it's like a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, and so it sounds like you know, just basically the theme, the sense that I'm getting, and tell me if this is true or not, the sense that I'm getting from you is that like you totally agree with kind of the whole values. I mean, you already said this basically out loud. You said you agree everything with vegans philosophically. I'm getting the sense that like for you, it's kind of an existential maybe question where it's like, does this really have a meaningful impact? And does it really mean anything for me and my existence, and or anybody, for me to be vegan? That's kind of the sense I'm getting. Is that true, or is that not true?
I mean, that's a different question, but that's interesting. It's like, does it make a difference if I'm vegan? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it doesn't feel like that's exactly what's going through your head, but it feels like because I'm just trying to understand, like, you're saying you agree philosophically with veganism, but then you'll also say, like, cheese is, I guess I'm just not clear on why. So why do you eat that stuff? You're saying it's like a culture?
I think it's just force of habit, honestly.
Okay.
It's like, I also don't feel as bad like eating the cheese. And I understand that, the argument is like, well, in order for the cheese to be produced, all these animals have to be killed anyway. All
yeah,
the
well,
boy,
do you know what
cows.
happens? Yeah, the boy cows. Do you know? And then also the calves and the mother cows are separated so that the calves don't take up the milk, and the dairy cows are kept perpetually pregnant, right? Because they need to continue producing milk, and so they're just always pregnant. They're always giving birth. They're always being separated. They pine for their children for days during that separation. The children get fed some kind of powder nutrition thing. If they're females or if they're boys, yeah, like you said, they get slaughtered. The cows get artificially inseminated. The bulls get electronic tasers put into their behinds so that we can harvest their semen. It's pretty weird. Like, the whole situation's pretty strange, at least to me. And there's definitely a lot of suffering involved there. And yeah, at the end of the whole cycle, I think you said this too. Yeah, the cows get sent to the slaughterhouse when they're done producing milk.
Yeah, I mean, all that stuff's gnarly. I mean, again, I feel like there is an argument which is like, there is a humane, or there is an ethical way to harvest milk.
Yeah, maybe.
And then
maybe.
there's the factory farming model, which is like what you've described, which is, really, obviously gnarly.
Yeah, it's tough.
And gnarly for the environment too.
Yeah, it's also tough even on the local level, right? Because if you think about it, like, okay, you got a dairy farmer, or not even a dairy farmer, you just got some dude with a cow, and the cow is producing milk, and because the cow had a child, and so there's some milk that this cow is producing, and the person that owns the cow, they can get a bit of milk, and then somebody else sees that they have milk, and they're like, hey, can I get some of that milk? And so, maybe the person says, yeah, sure, you can have some of this milk from my cow, but then maybe more people catch on to this milk, and then now more people want this milk. And so that person has to either decide, I guess you're saying, like, as long as we don't cross a line, there's some line that we can put down and say, like, hey, if we don't cross this line, then the animals are being respected. And yeah, I'm not completely against that idea. I guess my problem in this case is, like, we're so far. I've not seen that anywhere. Maybe I think I saw, like, one farm in India that was like doing that seemed to have a lot of respect for the cow. But, like, I've not seen it in America. It's definitely, like, all the stuff that's available to us. It's just not happening. And so I think it's nice for us to theorize about these ideas, but when it comes to, like, our actions and the money that we're putting down, the money we're putting down is for horrifying things, horrifying treatment of animals.
I mean, it'd be interesting to talk. Like, my friend Sarah Chase, for instance, has a farm, and she's always posting pictures of her girls, the cows, and I feel like they have a lot of respect for.
I would love to talk to her.
As like, basically like partners in the business. Do those cows just get slaughtered when they're done producing milk? Maybe. I don't know. I would almost like feel like maybe not. Like, maybe she's like really treating them.
It's a lot of land, like
yeah.
More and more animals accumulate.
No, it's true. I've never asked her those questions, and she probably actually, like, would totally talk to you about this, because
it would be amazing if she would let me record a conversation with her. Like, that would be amazing. But
I could totally reach out to her. I would
really appreciate that.
If it's really an off season, or I guess there's no real off. Well, because they have a farm too, like they grow their own hay and everything. I mean, she's from a family of dairy producers, and I also, like, you may know this, and your audience at home may not. So I'm from Wisconsin, and we got some dairy. And I think part of the other thing about dairy farming that is so gnarly and brutal is also just the environmental impact.
Right.
It smells like shit. Like as soon as I leave, Madison, Wisconsin, I'm biking across or driving, it just smells bad. And obviously the smelling bad isn't the worst thing, but I think it's just like it's a symptom of this whole system of the cows being, having just diarrhea for their whole lives. And then I saw this one, I always wondered, like, how do they put the poop on the fields? Like there's a mechanism for it. I'd never seen it. And I was like, I was biking through Wisconsin a month or two ago, and I just saw this machine that was like, it was just spraying the liquid poop on the field. That was the machine. I was like biking by. I was like, that's just fucking disgusting. But here's my question for you.
Yeah.
I mean, if the cows, let's say everybody in North America became a vegan overnight, and we all, when we didn't kill these cows that were just kind of at that point unnecessary because we didn't need their meat and we didn't want their milk. They were just like our friends,
right?
They would all live out their lives, but we probably wouldn't try to like
breed them,
make them have babies. Yeah, so they would just all die. And maybe happy deaths or just whatever, old age. And then the number of cows in, say, North America would go, from whatever it is now, like millions, down to like a very small number of like pet cows. And so in essence, we've killed, millions and millions of cows.
I would disagree with the word kill, although I do understand. I do understand what you're saying. We've reduced the population significantly.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I would argue that that's not really a problem. It's like I'm not compelled by the number of cattle that live on the earth. Setting aside for a second that like the number of cattle we have right now is absurd. It's absolutely ridiculous, pumping methane into the air. So there's that issue. But aside from that, like, I don't know, like there will be sanctuaries. I believe that in a vegan world, I'm having trouble connecting with the problem that you're trying to present here, because I think in a vegan world, it's like, I don't know, is the argument that you're making like, well, there are fewer lives existing, and so because of that, there's like less potential for like a happy life? Is that the argument, or?
Well, it's generally a good question. Like if there's at this point, like say 1 billion, cattle on planet Earth, and like most of them are miserable, wouldn't it actually be better if there was only say a few, maybe 100,000 in the world, in the whole world, like, but they just lived like the wild aurochs their ancestors did. And
sure, I
think part of the complexity there too is like we've bred these animals to be
what they are,
what they are, and they've bred them to be food and to be milk creators, and we've bred chickens that I don't think they would like survive in the wild if we were to just sort of not keep them fenced in and whatnot.
Yeah.
And again, maybe that's like fine, like we as a civilization, or whatever, as a humanity, we're making many I don't know, thousands of species go extinct,
right,
all the time. Maybe we shouldn't worry too much about like the chicken going extinct, because honestly it probably won't. You know what I mean? and then
I guess the other thing about that is like the chicken, as we know, that chicken that we're talking about, is the statistics on it in terms of what we've done to it are pretty horrifying. Like the wild chicken lays, I think, 15 eggs per year, and then our chickens lay 300 eggs per year. and so they're losing like tons of calcium through these eggs, and then on top of that we've bred them to be like huge, right, and produce all this meat, but then their legs can't really support their weight, and so they have all of these leg problems and foot problems. And so I don't know, like that's I'll be honest with you, if we lose that weird species that we've created, I don't know if that's a tragedy. You know what I mean? Like I it's interesting. You bring up some very interesting points, because I do care about species preservation. I think that is something to think about. I care about it probably less than other people do. But then, oh gosh, there was another point I was going to make. Damn it. Okay, yeah. Just real quick, like the thing that you're talking about where like letting animals live in the wild, we kind of touched on this at the beginning of the conversation, but like one of the kind of modern topics in veganism these days is this idea of wild animal suffering. And so like the idea of like caring about what's going on in nature and like actually trying to prevent pain. And so like I was telling you earlier about like feeding lions plant meats and, you know, preventing horrific deaths at the hands of lions. That's sort of something that's now kind of being discussed in the vegan community, and I'm kind of all for that. Like, to be honest, I'm anti-pain and pro-pleasure wherever possible. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think that is I've never thought about that. I mean, we talked about it a little bit before, but I think it's a good. It is in keeping with the philosophical framework that leads like a human to be a vegan. Right. And so you'd say if a human is a vegan, and I don't even like that word, but like if we have, you know, we have a vegan? Plant-based diet, you know. Why do you not like the word vegan? Because I don't know. It sounds like there's something goth about it. I don't know. I think yeah. All right, fair enough. I don't know. Yeah, I guess veg. It just comes. I just feel veg. Like the reason that there's a negative association with vegan is just because I feel like. Well, I don't want to get off on too many tangents, but I feel like there's a reputation where vegans are radical, but I don't think that vegans are that radical. I just think that people get defensive and insecure, and then they turn vegan into. Also, PETA sucks. That probably has a lot to do with it. PETA's fucking so dumb. But anyway. Anyway, we'll go back to this idea of like, should lions not eat whatever they eat, antelope, or should wolves not eat caribou? And again, I'm not there yet. Sure. Or maybe I'll never be there. I don't think that. I think, you know, predation is part of nature, and to that extent, you know, pain is part of nature, and that makes it not bad. Now, granted, humans were also part of that circle of being, you know, preyed upon. You know, for much of our history, we were eaten by lions. We were eaten by, you know, whatever other stronger animals, and we figured out a way, like for most of us, to get out of that, you know, circle, or put ourselves on the top of the food chain. So I don't want to be eaten by a lion any more than a gazelle does, you know. And I get it. I totally get it. I get that line of thinking, but I also think that there is a kind of I don't know. There's also kind of a beauty in. I don't know about that. I don't know. I think I might have to disagree with you there. Okay, well, bring it on. Well, I mean, a beauty in what? In a lion tearing apart an antelope? Are you sure about that? Yeah, I mean, where's the beauty? Where's the? I'm not seeing it. I mean, and beauty as is a tricky way to try to establish any sort of ethics, right? You know, it could be beauty for me to eat you, okay, or you to eat me, and that would not make it right. Exactly, you know what I mean? No, I get you, but I guess I'm trying to say, like, well, I guess do you feel like the beauty that you're talking about is it something you can describe? Can you put words to it? Or? Sure, yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. I've watched nature videos, Planet Earth, you know, when you watch the cheetah, the lion, the even the dogs, like that hunt, not so much the hyenas. The hyenas are kind of, I don't know, they could freak me out, but like watching the, I don't know, slow motion version of a cheetah running to catch its prey is like so, I think it's so beautiful. I mean, they could be catching a vegan faux gazelle or whatever, but you know, and is it beautiful when they tear the animal,
that's the question. That's my
limb
question.
to limb? I think that part is less attractive.
Exactly.
To watch.
But that's the part we're talking about, right? Like, of course, I would agree with you. A cheetah running is a really beautiful thing, and honestly, I even think that maybe the idea of a creature being intelligent enough to like stalk something else and think cleverly is sort of beautiful. I think that, you know, and I think that speaks to like the beauty of consciousness and the beauty of intelligence. But I think, and maybe this is sort of how you feel, and maybe this is what you were saying towards the end, is like the beauty is not in the antelope, you know, suffering and screaming and being torn apart. That's the horrifying, that's the like the ugly part. Would you disagree or
I mean, to be honest, I don't know. I don't know how horrifying it is. And,
like if it was a human, like, okay, if it was a human, it would be very easy to say, okay, for you, I mean, if it was a human, maybe it changes things or no.
Yeah, no, it would be absolutely horrifying if it was like, let's watch this video.
But why? Because like presumably the thing that's horrifying about watching it happen to the human is that the human is going through this really horrific experience, right? And so is it do you feel like the antelope is having a less horrific experience, or what do you think of that?
That is a very good question, and that gets down to the question of like relative consciousness, right? Because like, you know, if you're watching you know, you're not going to convince all frogs in the world to like not eat bugs, right?
Sure.
Because then, well, frogs would cease to exist, and
although
bugs
we could
are
come
sort
up
of
with some plant-based bug, but sure.
Plant-based bug. I mean, it's, well, again, I think it's a noble idea. The question is sort of like, to what extent do we ascribe pain to, say, like an insect, and then you have this like kind of scale of pain in which we've placed ourselves on the top. But who knows? Maybe like dolphins feel more pain than we do.
Sure.
And that, you know, like the Jainists, you know, obviously they walk around with coverings on their mouths because they don't want to kill a bug. And I remember when I was a kid and I learned that, I was like, that's dumb.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
But it's like, no, they're trying extremely hard to respect all life, and that's the valid thing to do.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm like, I feel less, you know, if I were to see like, I don't know, like a human child torn limb to limb by like a lion, it'd be very traumatic. Right. If I see a bullfrog eating a mosquito or something, I feel no particular way about anything. Sure. But you know, in the interim place, like if, you know, I saw like a cat, you know, kill a mouse. Yeah, it's a little heavy, you know. It's like the mouse was just like, it's cute.
Sure.
Like, around.
It's very, very interesting. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and then you get closer and closer. Like, how would you feel about like a primate? Like, how would you feel about like an orangutan getting killed by, I don't know, a human or lion or something? There's probably no lions that eat orangutans, but whatever, eat them. They are so close to humans that I would feel, if I were to see one get killed, I would feel like really terrible. Yeah. You know? So there's no like clear line where it's like it's cool to kill a bug, but it's not cool to kill a mouse. Or I don't know. Or it's cool to kill a fish and a shrimp, but it's not cool to kill a dolphin.
So you're talking about like a hierarchy of consciousness, and yeah, that's definitely something that I think about a lot. Well, I mean, I still agree with you. I still agree that there's a hierarchy of consciousness, but I find that these days, the longer I'm vegan and the more I think about these things, the more that I actually kind of start caring about insects. And so, like, even in my garden, like, I feel terrible when I'm spraying aphids off of my plants, but I'm like, well, I guess this is what I'm doing. This is where, I guess this is my line. This is the pain that I'm willing to cause. But even then, I still kind of feel bad about it because even though I agree with you that there is like this hierarchy, for me, and I would like to know how you feel about this, for me these days, my line in terms of who I'm willing to consider, who I'm willing to lend my consideration, my compassion to, basically for me it's just like, if you have the capacity to suffer, and especially as a consequence of
your actions, I don't know.
Yeah, actions or even inactions sometimes. Like if it's easy for me to not, like if I'm walking and I see a spider and it's super easy for me to just step out of the way and not kill it, then I feel like deeply obligated not to kill the spider, even though it's like very low on the hierarchy.
I feel like the aphid, I kind of got stuck on the aphid example. Because, you know, if you are someone that's like committed to, like ahimsa, like committed to nonviolence, but you realize there are moments in which violence is going to stop another violence, like the violence of the aphids themselves against like your tomatoes or whatever, is such that you need to exert your violence like very judiciously against the aphids, which isn't going to like kill them as a species. Right. You know what I mean? Like it's not.
But I care about the individual aphid, if I'm being honest. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Which is, I think that's a very key question. Like, do aphids consider their own individuality? Right. Like we consider
what do
our
you mean by that? Like, do they contemplate on it?
Right. Like we as humans put a bunch of emphasis on our individual experience. Right. And in fact, I think more and more over human history, we've become oriented towards our individual experience. Yeah. I don't know if insects, I mean, how we could fucking ever know, you know, like what an aphid feels.
I see what you're saying. I guess the thing for me, the thought that I have there is like, okay, definitely I could imagine, okay, so like for me, when I try and guess what an animal is going through, and you know, even if I think about an animal not being capable of like contemplating on itself and you know, like the kind of self-awareness that we would describe us having, I think that it's really easy for me to believe that they're experiencing things and like they're having the same physical sensations that I'm having. And so for me, it's like, even if a cow or an aphid doesn't know exactly how sad it is that it's suffering, I just don't want it to suffer. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't want it to go through that painful experience, even if it doesn't understand how tragic it is. You know what I mean?
I mean, there's something beautiful about that in the sense that you understand or you can't really understand, but you can sort of like intuit, or you can like extend your compassion to like these creatures that have just probably a different way of conceiving everything. Sure. You know, like the aphid doesn't like love the way we love. It doesn't want to take a piss the way we want to take a piss. It doesn't call anyone on the phone. Like it must have some desire. It has the fundamental energy of life. You know, it has the desire to live and to reproduce, which is like every single thing, you know, plant, animal, fungus.
I don't know if I have the desire to reproduce, but sure.
Well, right. yeah, maybe you don't, and maybe some of the aphids don't too, but like, you know, again, like maybe we can't ascribe any of these things to it. Maybe it has no desire to reproduce. Maybe it's just like its soul orientation is different. But I think the thing that you're getting at is like you're getting at an appreciation for the sanctity of all life.
Totally.
You know, and that is also, again, like there's an understanding that as part of living, we will kill things, you know, even if it's just like eating a broccoli, you know, we're sort of killing that broccoli. That is like, well, we, you know, maybe said, okay, eating a fungus, eating a plant, is something that we're like, okay with that level of like violence. 'Cause it's, you know, they're not necessarily sentient in the same way that like a squirrel is sentient.
Yeah, and just to quickly talk about that, like scientifically, although, you know, I don't know. The science of it suggests that, like, well, if you don't have a brain and a central nervous system, then it's a lot less likely that you would feel pain. And, you know, honestly, I do think about, like, I don't even know if plants feel pain. Maybe they do on some level, and so, you know, it's something I think about. But I know for sure, I feel like really confident when it comes to animals that they feel pain, because it's so easy for me to reflect on the way that they're behaving and correlate it with the way that I behave in the same situations.
Yeah, I mean, but I guess the thing for me that's like, because there's all these reasons to like think about what we ingest, because like this is the whole argument that you're making, right? Like, let's not kill things so we can eat them, right?
Yeah, or taste them. Yeah,
or taste them, or I suppose you probably would be
for
also
sensory
opposed
pleasure.
You'd be opposed to killing things so you could put their pelts on your wall.
Absolutely not. There's no reason to.
Yeah, like, you know, it's like, and I think that even more than all the other reasons that we mentioned, which is like, you know, first of all, maybe it's ethically wrong. Second of all, maybe it's bad for the environment. You know, maybe it's bad for, you know, the climate. But also it just like disregards the sanctity of life.
Absolutely.
And so that if you were to like not eat animals, you were to not eat animal things. I'm not completely sure about honey. Honey is a question I have. Would you be more in tune with the sanctity of life? I would say not necessarily. I would say you could be a vegan who is not in tune with the sanctity of life.
Sure. I would agree with that.
But you could also be, and I think you would actually be a non-vegan who is in tune with the sanctity of life. I think that hunters are sometimes often those people. But I think it's not a bad shorthand to be like, I'm a vegan and I'm also like a bird watcher, and I'm in tune with the sanctity of life, and I do have to like kill the aphids in my garden. But besides the aphids in the garden, like the random ass fucking insect that I accidentally step on or hit with my like car windshield, like I've reduced my ahimsa as low as I possibly can. Then you have like some level of integrity. That's a good thing. I'm in favor of this whole project. I would ask a question of you.
Yeah.
Which is, I think that eating meat and eating dairy is, for many people, it's about habit, and I would also say it's it's almost like an addiction, and the cure for it has something to do with like re-educating us in like very basic things, like how do we cook, how do we shop, where do we eat.
Sure.
So I feel like there's a path, you know, to people. Let's say you want to quit drinking, you want to quit heroin or something. Like there's a path to doing that. There's probably many different paths, right?
Yeah, I think I see what you're saying. Yeah.
But like, if there's, I don't know if like a path to like, you want to stop eating animal things. Here's like a 12-step process.
Sure. Well, okay. I see what you're saying, and I think that you're right on. I half agree with you and I half disagree. I think you're right that there needs to be better education and there needs to be like a better and clearer route into veganism. But the other half is like, I think a lot of that is just like propaganda, social crap that we're telling ourselves, or that society tells itself, like, oh, going vegan is so hard, going vegan is so hard. But in reality, I think, right, isn't it just a matter of like, okay, I could reach for this milk, but instead of reaching for the milk, I'm going to reach for the, whatever, cashew, almond, soy. There's so many different kinds of milk that doesn't come from a dairy cow, right? Instead of reaching for the beef patties, you just reach for the Beyond patties. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, I think it's just like, I think it comes down a little bit to like thinking ahead. As someone who like generally thinks like,
because once you're saying like once you're in the grocery store and you're kind of like in the motion, then you're kind of grabbing the stuff you usually grab. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like me as kind of a not super, advanced chef, like I'm like, well, what are my go-to foods? I'm like, well,
let me
let
me send you this.
Quesadillas.
Sorry. Yeah, I'll send you a website called, or even I'll just tell you right now, Challenge 22 is the website that all the vegan activists are recommending, and it basically tells you, gives you like 22 days, sets you up with a person, like I can't remember who, like a nutritionist or something, maybe somebody less official though, but it sets you up with a person who will help you with your diet and give you like full days worth of recipes and snacks and stuff to eat and stay healthy for 22 days. The idea being that if you eat some diet for 21 days, I guess it becomes a habit. I'll send you that link. I'll email that to you for one, if that sounds interesting.
I already went online and I'm looking at it. There's pictures of beautiful avocados and green tomatoes and garlics and like really happy animals.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, so you don't really cook much? Is that what I'm hearing, or?
It goes in waves. I mean, I travel a lot, so when I'm traveling, I don't feel usually like very comfy in like a kitchen wherever I am.
Yeah.
When I'm like stationary, I cook a lot more.
So here's one thing I'll say. I want to wrap it up because I know you're getting tired, but here's one thing I'll say. You were talking about like, going when you're traveling, it's hard to be vegan, and it's hard to like, when you're in Mexico, ask for vegan tacos and stuff. But here's how I feel about that. Like I'm proud. I'm super proud of the fact that I'm vegan, and I'm not afraid to be proud of it. Like before, for a while I was a little bit embarrassed and a little bit ashamed, and I wouldn't tell people, and I would even make exceptions and eat meat. But like these days I'm super proud, and like I would rather kind of, suffer a little bit and maybe not have something to eat at the taco stand, or maybe just, have a conversation with the guy at the taco stand and be like, hey, I know it's going to sound crazy, but I'm vegan. You got anything for me? And, maybe that'll lead to some friendship. And furthermore, it'll impress upon people that veganism is a thing that people are doing. The more people are vegan, the more people are going to be thinking about it. So yeah, I guess basically I'm just trying to get you to go vegan.
Well, I have to say that I'm already in a vegan band, and it's called Friends Not Food.
Wait, what?
And
you're in a band called Friends Not Food, and you're not even vegan?
Well, sometimes
that's not allowed.
So I just sent you a link on Dropbox to the Friends Not Food album, which of all the things I've done in my life is the best.
Wait, so so you guys never released this? Why is it just a Dropbox?
Oh yeah, this has never been released.
How old is this?
It was all made. I made it a couple of years ago with my friend Eddie, who is actually vegan, and we made it in China. It was all done in one afternoon.
One afternoon.
It was all done. I think I may have mixed it later, but it was all recorded in one afternoon.
We're Chilling with Goats is the one that looks most interesting. Jimmy
I'm
not
Jensen
listening
is
yet.
the name. Yeah,
I guess I could play it actually, and it would play. Oh yeah, actually that's a great idea. I'll play these right now. Okay, we're gonna listen to "We're Chillin' with Goats." Here we go. Wow, 6 minutes, 44 seconds.
I mean, it's a really epic tune, though.
We're chilling with goats.
This album is...
Is this you singing?
No, it's Eddie singing. I sing sometimes.
Yeah, I might remix this.
The goat grotto.
This is pretty funny. I don't know why, but
the Pig Odyssey is particularly vegan friendly.
wait, what'd you say just now? There's a particular track.
The song called Pig Odyssey is particularly vegan friendly.
Okay, we'll listen to that right now. I'm opening it. I'm listening. And this is experimental. This is avant-garde.
Yeah. I mean, it was all... There was no second takes on any of these tracks.
It sounds like it.
I think you're going to love this album. Mostly because the name of the band is called Friends Not Food. And,
wait, what are these lyrics? Hold on, let me...
I'm like, why not? Maybe I'll get lucky again. And they'll just eat my young. Oh, what a
Man, this is dark.
That's real life, though. That was based on an actual pig that was our neighbor.
Well, yeah, I believe it. Yeah, it sounds like a pig's life. That's amazing. I like this. Is it okay if I link this to if I get a billion listeners on my podcast? Can I link to this album or like?
Yeah, sure. I can give you like a better link, like a SoundCloud link or something.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Otherwise, I'll just link to this Dropbox if that's not a.
I'm ready for this band to be in the limelight that it deserves.
You know what? That's a great point. Maybe this is... Yeah. It's definitely different. Like, I've definitely not heard... Pig. Okay, yeah. So you're going vegan. That's what I'm hearing, right? You're going to be vegan?
I'm going to go vegan for 22 days.
You're going to go... Wait. Are you really going to go for 22 days vegan?
Yeah, I said it. And I meant it. 22 days would take me to like November 28th, essentially, basically the end of the month.
That'd be amazing. Would you be willing? Could we do another recording then, or when you give up? I shouldn't have said that. You're not going to give up. No, I shouldn't have said that. I'm supposed to be an activist.
I think that's fair. That's fair. Like I could either. There's two options. I can either. Like
you're not going to give up.
Achieve the goal I've set out just here in this podcast, and go for 22 days without eating animal products, or I could fail. Those are the only two options.
That makes sense.
There
might be a third option.
I don't know what the third option is.
So we got to keep our minds open.
Okay, well, one of those three options will happen in real life, and then we can do another call, and we can talk about it.
That would be amazing. Thank you, Jeremy, so much for doing this with me. I love you. We still got to do our 60-hour opera. We're working on that. Everybody stay tuned. We got a 60-hour opera coming up.
Yep, right. Soon. Well, we have like good 6 hours already, so it's only like 54 hours left. So
yeah. The rest of it now that we've got this foundation, the rest of it should be pretty straightforward.
It's pretty straightforward. All right, well, thank you guys for listening. Cameron, thanks for having me on your show, and God bless, or God bless, or God is blessed.
Ja is one. All. Oh gosh, I'm cutting all this out.
Put the pig in the ditch, then I jump in, then I just give the pig a little belly rub, like he's a little kid, but he's a pig. I'd rather just smoke a cig with a pig. No, I'm just kidding.
Peace.